drank, the time I got up, the time I went to bed.
I was living in an abandoned house.
I laid in an abandoned house underneath down in a cellar for 3 days and wouldn't come out.
I got really heavy off into drugs, and I lost my job and I lost my wife.
Drinking, drugs, you know, being with the wrong people at the wrong time.
I became homeless because that's what I chose.
Dr. Roger Noe has studied the homeless population in Knoxville, Tennessee for more than 20 years. During that time, he has conducted numerous studies to pinpoint some of the many reasons that cause people to become homeless. He is also the director of the 10-year plan to end chronic homelessness in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Homelessness represents a very, very diverse group of individuals. There are many stereotypes in this country that the homeless individual is seen as an old, white, male wino who's down on his luck on Skid Row. But when you examine the homeless population, you find that it's a very diverse population. There are men, women, children. During our studies, for example, we find that in any given month in Knoxville, Knox County, approximately 1,600 individuals will be homeless at some time during the month.
Over the last 10 years, the number of homeless have continued to rise, not only here in Knoxville, but across the United States as well. And more we're seeing people who the need for food and shelter becomes a day-to-day survival. What we've seen over the last couple of years, both here in Knoxville and in mirrors, and in some ways slightly larger than what's happening nationally, is that homeless women and homeless women with children represent the fastest growing segment of the population, probably growing 2.5 to 3 times faster than the male population. You know, I think back to October of 2004, and while we're not talking about numbers, we served just shy of 30,000 meals that month. The number was so staggering compared to any previous October that we really thought we made a mistake when we looked at our own numbers. We decided to let it stand. November it jumped to 30,000. January it jumped to 31,000. January a year later it had jumped to 38,000 meals in a month, almost 1,000 meals a day.
The Knox Area Rescue Ministries have been serving the homeless for more than 40 years, giving them food, shelter, and job training to help people get back on their feet.
You know, one of the things that we've seen as we've brought people through our facility is we hear the same comment over and over again, and that is, I had no idea. And what they're really saying is, I had no idea that all of this really goes on underneath this roof. Right now we're serving about 1,000 meals a day, every day. We do that in 6 sittings, 2 at breakfast, 2 at lunch, 2 at dinner. Those that are in the residential component of our facility have meals first, then they clear out, then the kitchen is cleaned up, and we get it ready for the larger number of people who will come in for the second sitting in each of those meals. Not only are we doing that day in, day out, we're taking extra measures at Thanksgiving, where on Thanksgiving Day we'll probably feed about 10,000 people between the Thanksgiving Tent of Hope and those who will receive a Thanksgiving basket for us.
Although the Knox Area Rescue Ministries is one of the largest shelters in Knoxville, there are numerous other ministries that are available to help people in need. Every Sunday, people gather under a bridge to serve meals to a large portion of Knoxville's homeless population. Hundreds come for a free meal, but there is a lot more for them than just food. Preacher Bob has been helping the hopeless for 17 years with the Highways and Byways Ministries.
Brother, this right here is part of the vision being fulfilled. Started out here 17 years ago with just a few sandwiches, pot of soup, stuff like that. What we need now, the biggest thing we need now, is a place to put people when they come to the altar, a dry house if they're on alcohol or drugs. We need a resource center where they can take showers and where they can do their laundry. This ministry's always been no strings attached save the throne of God. And that's the way I always want it to be. I don't ever want a string attached or charge for anything we do. I want it to be done from the heart. Sincere laborers, sincere volunteers, people working to see souls go into the kingdom of heaven. Seeing a life changed through Jesus Christ and souls saved, that the marriage supper will be full, brother. That's what the vision of this ministry is. It's not for self-gain or anything.
Free meals and shelter are a good thing for Knoxville's homeless, but more needs to be done in order to keep people off the streets.
What we operated for years was pretty much an emergency orientation. We viewed homeless individuals that, well, we need to get them into long-term treatment or long-term training, or this deal with their crisis situation, more emergency-oriented services. What we saw happening was an increase, more and more homeless individuals provide services, the number still increased.
You know, the food and the shelter that we provide is really life-sustaining for so many people that come through our doors. But apart from the physical need that it meets, what it gives us to do, gives us the opportunity to do, is display that first act of compassion. And while many would look at what we're doing as enabling, it is enabling in a sense, but what it's enabling is us to have the opportunity to share the good news of Christ with them, and thereby win their trust and the opportunity to help them turn their lives around.
There has been a debate going on for many years between organizations like the Knox Area Rescue Ministries and the Coalition to End Chronic Homelessness over how to end homelessness. Some people believe that providing food and shelter to the homeless only enables them to stay on the streets, instead of working towards getting the homeless off of the streets.
At the initiative of the United States Interagency Council on Homelessness, cities begin to develop what are called 10-year plans to end chronic homelessness. At the center of these plans is a concept of housing first. And housing first is the idea that rather than provide ongoing long-term emergency services, that people should be helped or assisted to get into housing as quickly as possible, and then supportive services provided to help them maintain that housing, to stay in that housing. And that's central to the 10-year plans that have been developed across the country. And that's working. It's a very good concept. And people are finding that not only is the retention rate in housing very high, but also time spent in an emergency room, ambulance calls, police runs, jail time, all of those things go down, that it's a tremendous savings for cities and counties. And so that's central, the idea of housing first to the 10-year plan. But the 10-year plan goes beyond that. And ours, for example, has strategies. It talks about things like, let's stop discharging people into the streets. Let's develop a better system of coordinated case management and care. Let's reduce duplication. Let's designate case managers to be in charge and who will be accountable for getting people off the streets. Let's increase economic opportunities, better job training. For example, Knox Area Rescue Ministries has developed what they call the Abundant Life Kitchen, where they teach folks skills necessary for restaurant employment, to become chefs, to work their way up. Very successful program, and we want to increase those type of things.
Back in May of 2004, the cover story of Business Week was on the working poor. And in that article, it identified the top 10 employment opportunities over what would be the next 10 years ending in 2012. Within that top 10 were food service and food preparers, customer service, cashiering and retailing, building maintenance and janitorial, certified nursing assistants. Well, what we noticed was that we had the resource of the kitchen, and what would it look like if we converted the kitchen, which prepares 1,000 meals a day, from a food preparation site to a culinary training site, and then we coupled with that biblically based life skills and an internship, and with that we formed a partnership that launched the Abundant Life Kitchen.
The Abundant Life Kitchen, I just started, and this is my second week. It is what you say, it's a challenge. People may think a cookie's easy, it's not. There's so much you need to know, temperatures from utensils to what you could say, hazards to viruses and bacteria. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. And it's stuff that I haven't learned, and what you could say, it's going to be an adventure. And plus, there's positive attitude, and the chef, instructor, and the two ladies that work in there with us, three ladies that work in there with us are great and supporting, and I just can't wait to be able to say I graduated from this course.
When we first began the Abundant Life Kitchen, we had a $25,000 startup grant, which was a joint effort between us and another local agency. What we're finding now is we need to expand that training. Early on, we intentionally only made that available to residents who were here at CARM. But what we're getting now are more and more people who are asking to go through the culinary training who are not residents here at CARM, who are marginalized and living on the fringes right now. We want to be able to expand that from 10 classes, for classes of 10 3 times a year, to actually doubling that number over the next 2 to 3 years.
That grace, the very hour, thank you, Jesus, I first believed through many dangerous toils and snares I have already come. It was His grace that brought me safe thus far, and His grace will lead me home. Well, we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun. We've known no less days to sing